It was a crisp, early morning in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Willow Creek. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a golden hue over the tree-lined streets. The air was filled with the faint chirping of birds and the distant hum of a lawnmower. But for me, Michael Carter, the tranquility was shattered by the deafening roar of heavy machinery. I bolted upright in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. The sound was coming from my front yard. I rushed to the window, my stomach dropping as I saw the scene unfolding below. Giant bulldozers were tearing through my meticulously manicured lawn, their iron claws ripping through the earth like it was paper. My home's walls were crumbling under the relentless force of a wrecking machine. Standing there, capturing the entire destruction on her phone, was Linda Harper, the head of our homeowners association, HOA. She flashed me a smug grin, as if she were punishing me for daring to challenge her authority. But Linda had no idea who she was messing with. She didn't know my real influence, my hidden power, and how her entire scheme was about to unravel. This is my story, and my name is Michael Carter. Trust me when I say, nothing prepares you for the moment you realize your own neighbors have declared war on your home. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how one simple security gate triggered the biggest showdown of my life. Stay tuned, because what Linda Harper and her HOA cronies did next wasn't just extreme, it was downright dangerous. And if you think their bulldozers are the worst part, you're in for a wild surprise. Before we dive into the twists and drama, I need your help to keep this channel alive. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like if you love hearing about HOAs gone wild. Comment below where you're watching from. It would mean the world to this growing community. Thank you for your support. Now, get ready for a roller coaster of secrets, sabotage, and a final twist you won't see coming. A fresh start in Willow Creek. 2 years ago, I moved to Willow Creek with my daughter, Emily, hoping for a fresh start. Our old neighborhood had become a war zone. A string of robberies had left us living in constant fear. The worst night of my life came when a masked intruder broke into our home. I fought him off, but not before he tried to drag Emily into the hallway. Her screams still haunt me. The police arrived too late, and though the man was never caught, I knew we couldn't stay there any longer. Willow Creek felt like a dream come true. Tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, kids riding bikes outside without a care in the world. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to breathe. I told Emily, "We're safe now." But I was wrong. Everything changed the night the Thompson family was robbed, just 2 doors down. Their house was ransacked while their kids were home alone. The sound of their screams carried through the night. The police came, but the intruders were long gone. Then it happened again. The Martinez home was hit the following week. This time, they took everything of value, leaving shattered glass and fear behind. I began double-checking my locks, installing extra security lights, and even buying a guard dog. But the final straw was Mrs. Henderson. Sweet, kind Mrs. Henderson, who baked cookies for the neighborhood, had her front window smashed in. She had nothing worth stealing, but that didn't matter to the criminals. The neighborhood wasn't safe, not for me, and definitely not for Emily. That was when I made my decision. I was going to protect my home. Emily and I picked out a simple black iron security gate. It wasn't fancy, just enough to keep out intruders and give us peace of mind. Before installing it, I carefully reviewed Willow Creek's HOA guidelines. Nowhere did it say I couldn't have a security gate. For 3 days, everything felt better. Packages were delivered safely behind the gate, and Emily told me she slept more peacefully. I thought I had finally regained control over our safety. Then came Linda Harper. The HOA strikes. I was chopping vegetables in the kitchen when I saw her storming up my driveway like a woman on a mission. Linda wore a tennis outfit, her visor pulled down low, and a clipboard clutched in her perfectly manicured hands. By the time I opened the door, she was already pointing at my gate, her expression twisted in disgust. "This is unacceptable," she snapped. "Excuse me," I said, gripping the doorframe. "This," she gestured wildly at the gate, "makes the entire neighborhood look like a prison yard. It has to go. Immediately." I took a deep breath. "Linda, there's nothing in the HOA guidelines that says I can't have a security gate." Her lips curled into a condescending smirk. "Oh, sweetie, you must have missed the community aesthetics clause. We have standards here. I run the HOA for a reason." My stomach twisted. "Linda, my daughter was almost taken. Do you understand that?" She was nearly. I couldn't even finish the sentence. Linda rolled her eyes. I'm sorry for whatever happened to you before, but that's not our problem. This is a peaceful community, and we intend to keep it that way. My hands trembled with rage. And I intend to keep my daughter safe. This gate is staying. Linda stepped closer, lowering her voice to a venomous whisper. You'll be fined daily until you comply. And if you don't, we'll escalate it to legal action. You really want to fight me on this? I glared at her. Try me. The next morning, a bright orange violation notice was taped to my precious new gate. Remove immediately or face daily penalties. I ripped it down, my pulse pounding. Emily came outside, her eyes wide with worry. Dad, what's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing, sweetheart. Just a small disagreement with the HOA. But inside, I was already planning my next move. Because if Linda thought I was going to back down, she had no idea who she was messing with. The HOA's reign of terror. Suddenly, Linda Harper unleashed a wave of bizarre violation letters on other neighbors, too. The Turners got cited for having unapproved rose bushes. The Browns were charged a fee because their bird feeder was too tall. Everyone was on edge. It became clear Linda enjoyed power plays. Emily came home from school in tears one day. She had heard Linda's daughter spreading rumors that our gate was lowering property values. Emily asked if we could just take it down to avoid trouble. My heart broke. I hated seeing my girl upset, but we needed that gate for safety. Plus, I refused to back down to a bully. I'm not just any homeowner. I have a background that Linda didn't know about. I started digging through public records, old HOA documents, and local property filings. I discovered that Linda had slipped onto the HOA board just a few weeks ago after the last board member moved away. She was appointed, not voted in. And guess who was backing her? Robert Hayes, the HOA president, known for ignoring actual crimes, but zealously punishing petty stuff. I discovered more suspicious clues. Large payments from the HOA's account to a local consultancy firm with ties to Linda. My instinct screamed corruption. My doorbell camera started recording Linda driving past our house at odd hours, snapping photos or videos of my gate. She'd slow down, aim her phone, then speed off when I stepped outside. I installed more security cameras, which only seemed to inflame her paranoia. The HOA started slapping me with daily $100 fines for noncompliance. In just 1 month, they claimed I owed thousands of dollars. I tried calling Robert Hayes, but he ignored me. I emailed the HOA with evidence that my gate followed the guidelines, but Linda insisted I was twisting the rules. Worse than the money, though, was the hostility Emily faced. Kids at her school, influenced by Linda's kids, started rumors. Someone even called us criminals in a fortress. Emily skipped a friend's birthday party out of embarrassment. I knew I had to protect her from this madness. The bulldozers arrive. One early morning around 6:15 a.m., I was jolted awake by a deep, earth-shaking rumble. Disoriented, I scrambled to the window, my pulse pounding in my ears. My stomach dropped. Bulldozers were on my lawn. Workers in neon vests were unloading heavy machinery, their faces indifferent, as if they were about to start just another workday. But this wasn't just any work site. This was my home. And leading the charge, standing smugly with her phone raised like she was filming an action movie, was Linda Harper. My blood ran cold. Before I could fully process what was happening, I was already running down the stairs, my heart racing. By the time I flung the front door open, the bulldozer engine roared to life. The operator, a gruff man with a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, gripped the controls. He barely spared me a glance before gripping the lever to start dismantling my gate. The sound of metal twisting and snapping filled the air, slicing through my chest like a blade. I staggered forward. Hey, stop. What the hell do you think you're doing? Linda turned, her face lighting up with the kind of sadistic pleasure only people who thrive on control could muster. Oh, Michael, she cooed, waving a thick stack of papers in the air. You should have followed the rules. I snatched the paper from her hands, scanning it furiously. It was a court order. At least, it was meant to look like one. But something felt off. This isn't an emergency injunction, I barked. Who issued this? Linda smirked. A judge who understands that the HOA has every right to enforce its rules. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? The bulldozer lurched forward, the screech of tearing metal making my stomach churn. My daughter Emily appeared in the doorway, her small frame shaking. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she clutched the door frame. "Daddy, they're breaking our house." Rage boiled inside me. I turned back to Linda, barely containing the fury simmering beneath my skin. "This is beyond fines or violations. You're destroying private property." Linda let out a high-pitched laugh. "Oh, boo-hoo. Maybe next time you'll think twice before ignoring our standards." But it wasn't just the gate. The workers had moved past it, slamming a jackhammer into my front wall. The sound echoed across the street. A neighbor peeked out from their window, eyes wide, but no one dared step outside. I whipped out my phone, hitting record. "This is illegal trespassing," I stated, my voice ice cold. "And I'm catching every second of it on video." Linda scoffed. "Go ahead, film all you want. This is within HOA rights." That's when I saw him, Robert Hayes, the HOA president. The moment he stepped out of his car and caught sight of me, the color drained from his face. He clutched a folder of documents, no doubt, but his grip tightened, knuckles white. Linda turned toward him, triumphant. "Robert, we're handling this beautifully." Robert barely managed to nod, his hands trembling slightly. I took a step forward. "You know this is illegal," I said slowly, holding his gaze. Robert swallowed hard. "We have the right to enforce." "No, you don't," I interrupted, pulling out my phone's GPS app. I turned the screen toward him. "Your so-called order only includes my front gate. But your crew, they're tearing down my front wall." Robert's eyes flickered toward the construction workers, who had begun hesitating, clearly uneasy. "This is private property," I continued. "And right now, this entire crew is committing criminal trespass. And you know what the worst part is?" Robert hesitated. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he and Linda could hear. "I'm Senator Michael Carter, chair of the State Housing Committee." Linda's smirk faltered. Her lips parted as though she wanted to speak, but for the first time, she was speechless. Robert's face turned ghostly white. I let the silence stretch, watching the full weight of their mistake sink in. Finally, Linda found her voice. This is irrelevant," she stammered. "You still broke the rules." Robert clutched his folder like it was a shield. We were only acting within our authority." I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. "You both just made the worst mistake of your lives." The workers, now fully realizing the gravity of the situation, had stopped entirely. One of them stepped away from the jackhammer. Boss, maybe we should hold off." Linda turned on him, her eyes blazing. "You finished the job." "That's an order." "No." My voice cut through the tension like a blade. "You stop." Now, one by one, the workers backed away from their equipment. Some of them muttered apologies under their breath as they climbed into their trucks. Robert and Linda were frozen in place. I turned my phone's camera back toward Linda. "Smile for the investigation." For the first time that morning, she wasn't smiling. The fall of Linda Harper. That same day, I contacted the Attorney General's office and reported the suspected wrongdoing. Investigators arrived faster than I expected, swarming Willow Creek with clipboards and official badges. They interviewed neighbors who shared horror stories of fines, intimidation, and favoritism for Linda's close friends. The investigators discovered questionable financial transactions. HOA funds had been paying for consultation fees to a business owned by Linda's cousin. Robert Hayes's personal garage expansion had been approved without any documentation. Meanwhile, other residents' requests were denied for trivial reasons. But how did Linda manage to get a judge to sign off on demolishing my property? That's where things got even darker. From Linda's perspective, she had everything under control. For years, she had molded Willow Creek into her personal empire. Everyone feared her, obeyed her, and those who didn't, well, she made sure they suffered. She knew how to manipulate the system. A well-placed donation here, a friendly dinner with the right people there. Linda was a master at pulling strings. When she set her sights on getting rid of my property, she knew it had to be airtight. No loose ends, no risks. First, she needed a justification. That's where Robert Hayes came in. As HOA president, he had access to reports and records. Together, they fabricated a document claiming my gate posed an immediate security threat. They staged incidents, claimed my property was an attractive nuisance for criminals. Then, they needed signatures. That's where Linda's true deviousness shined. She forged a neighbor's signature, pretending they had complained. But that wasn't enough. She needed a judge willing to approve a demolition order. Linda had a list of connections, judges, lawyers, officials, people who owed her favors. One judge, an old friend of her late husband, seemed like the perfect choice. He had approved questionable rulings before, and Linda knew exactly how to sway him. The night before the court filing, she arranged a private meeting over expensive wine and an elegant dinner. She played the role of the concerned HOA vice president. "Judge Wilkins, I'm only trying to protect my community," she said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "This homeowner refuses to comply with safety regulations. He's a danger to everyone." Wilkins hesitated. "Demolishing private property isn't a small request, Linda. There needs to be substantial evidence." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "I have the evidence, reports, complaints, a signed petition." He sighed, rubbing his temple. "If this gets challenged." "It won't," she cut him off smoothly. "We'll keep it quiet. No press, no trouble." She sipped her wine and gave him a knowing look. "Besides, I believe you're up for re-election next year." Silence stretched between them. Then, finally, Wilkins exhaled, nodded, and reached for his pen. "The next morning, I woke up to find the demolition crew at my doorstep. They had the paperwork, they had the legal backing, and they had no idea it was built on lies. The community rises. Word spread like wildfire. Willow Creek residents rallied behind me. They'd had enough. Even people who initially feared Linda began to speak out once they realized a state senator was shining a light on everything. Suddenly, Linda's loyal supporters vanished. Nobody wanted to be on the sinking ship. Investigators tore through HOA records, exposing years of fraud and corruption. Linda's empire was collapsing. The once untouchable queen of Willow Creek was now a desperate woman fighting to save herself. But it was too late. Finally, Linda and Robert were hauled into court to explain their actions. The place was packed with reporters, curious locals, and a few sweaty defense attorneys. They tried to pass the blame, claiming they just wanted to protect property values. My lawyer then showed video evidence of the bulldozers destroying my gate and walls without any real justification. Next came the investigators' reports. They revealed Linda's unapproved shutters, illegal pool extension, and her intimidation campaign. Robert faced even more heat for awarding construction contracts to family members. Once neighbors testified about Linda's threats, forging documents, and targeted harassment, the judge's expression said it all. Linda was done. Linda and Robert were found guilty of multiple violations, from fraud to illegal property destruction. The judge slapped them with hefty fines and demanded they compensate me and other homeowners for damages. They each faced possible jail time pending further investigations. Linda, known for her bravado, broke down in tears, blaming everyone else. Robert stood silent, sweat dripping down his brow. The meltdown was epic, but it was about to get worse. Word had reached the state level, and the new homeowner protection bill was about to roll out. And guess who would sponsor it? A new dawn for Willow Creek. The day after the court ruling, construction teams hired by the state arrived to fix my front wall and help me reinstall a proper security gate, at Linda and Robert's expense. My neighbors cheered as the old rubble was cleared away and shiny new gates were set up. For the first time in weeks, Emily could leave the house without fear of harassment. As a senator, I introduced a bill that would crack down on abusive HOA practices, requiring real oversight, fair hearing processes, and transparent finances. The media dubbed it the Willow Creek Bill, and it garnered support from fed-up homeowners all over the state. Linda tried to appeal the court decision, but the evidence was overwhelming. She lost her position as vice president on the HOA board, had to pay massive fines, and faced more investigations for forging legal documents. Rumor had it she was selling her house to cover the costs. Robert quietly resigned and was serving his sentence under a cloud of disgrace. Just when I thought it was over, I received an anonymous tip. Linda was spotted sneaking around the neighborhood at night, rummaging through trash bins, possibly looking for any leftover evidence to destroy or blackmail material. But neighbors caught her on camera. When the authorities showed up, she sped away. That same night, her car mysteriously crashed into the mailbox of the same judge who ruled against her. No injuries, but it was a bizarre final act of desperation. In the end, Linda's meltdown sealed her fate. She wasn't just an HOA tyrant, she was now a cautionary tale for every community. Meanwhile, Willow Creek thrived under new leadership. Transparency replaced secrecy, and neighbors finally felt safe. Thank you for watching this incredible journey of how I, Michael Carter, stood up to Linda Harper and her bulldozers, proving that no one is above the law. If you love this story, or if you have your own HOA nightmare to share, drop a comment below. Be sure to like this video if you found it satisfying to watch Linda and her corrupt allies go down. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss more jaw-dropping HOA dramas, real-life revenge stories, and epic takedowns. Remember, you're never powerless against bullies. Sometimes, all it takes is the right evidence and a little patience to bring them down. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe out there. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story on Store of Good Stories. If this story touched your heart or made you think, don't forget to hit like and share the video to spread this positive message to more people. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the meaningful stories we share every week. Your support is the biggest motivation for Store of Good Stories to keep bringing heartfelt and valuable stories to you. See you in the next video.